Hey everybody, welcome back to Divulgence. I'm very excited today. I am bringing back a show favorite, author, filmmaker, researcher, William Ramsey. Hey William, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, Jordan. Good to be with you again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. So I'm very happy to have you again. For those who don't know, William is a author of many great books on many awesome topics, including Abomination, about the West Memphis Three. He has two different books about Crowley, Children of the Beast, as well as Prophet of Evil. And then one of my other favorites is Global Death Cult, which he put out a few years ago. And his most recent book, if I'm not mistaken, is The Smiley Face Killers. And he also has a movie on the Smiley Face Killers as well. So you can check all that out. Yeah, you're one of my favorites, William. So it's really great to have you back. So today we're going to talk about the 1962 movie, The Manchurian Candidate. You have been doing a lot of research on it, you told me. That's something that you've been talking about a lot lately, and I was really happy to bring you on to talk about this. So just for those who don't know, I'll just give a quick overview of what the movie's about. It's originally based off a book. The movie came out in 1962, starring Frank Sinatra, Janet Leigh, Angela Lansbury, and Lawrence Harvey. It was also remade. I forget the year. It was remade. I don't know if it was 09 or something like that, but it was remade with Denzel Washington, which a lot of people might also know. But we're going to pretty much be focusing on the 62 version, which the plot centers on a Korean War veteran, Raymond Shaw, who's part of a prominent political family. He's brainwashed by communists after his army platoon is captured during the Korean War. He later returns to civilian life in the U.S., where he becomes an unwitting assassin in an international communist conspiracy. So, where would you like to begin, William? Where does your research start exactly, or where?
Well, there's just a lot going on with this film because it was released in '62, and the book by Condon was in '59. It's right during the kind of Cold War hysteria, but also the interest and rise in kind of behavioral modification or behavioral psychology and the rise, they called it the golden age of psychiatry at that time, post-war. They're really trying to figure things out. And it preceded the JFK assassination, which is coming up here. It's September now, but in 2 months it'll be 60-something anniversary, 62nd. But that's still relevant, the JFK. And this movie actually strangely ties into the JFK assassination. On the surface, like at a first read about this film, like you did a synopsis of what's going on. At a first read, it seems like an entertainment film, and it is, but it also is very telling and a revelatory film because of some of the references in there and what Condon knew. Condon, strangely enough, would go on to write the intro to like one of the most important mind control books out there, which is called Operation Mind Control by Bauert. And he wrote an intro that's very interesting. And he wrote that like much later. So he was very keyed in. Condon's kind of dropped out of favor as an author. He's not remembered very well. People who know the film Prizzi's Honor, he wrote the novel about that. That book was made into a film with Jack Nicholson about like mobs and stuff, mobsters. But this film kind of overlaps with kind of real world events because what it is about is this kind of, they take this guy who is a mind controlled assassin. They put him in the back of, they put him into kind of the Iron Curtain, the communist world, bring him back out, and then have him go and shoot somebody during a nomination convention for political. So he becomes a political assassin at the end. And this is a total spoil alert that I'm going to kind of reveal suddenly. Yeah, Mike Frank says that. I have a slide about suddenly, but I'm going to reveal a lot about this film. So I would suggest turning this off and going watch the original. And like you said, it had these great actors at the time. Sinatra was really at the peak of his singing talent. He wanted to diversify into acting. Vivian Leigh is the mother of Jamie Lee Curtis, for people who don't know. So she's kind of like Hollywood royalty. And she had just come off Hitchcock's Psycho. So she,
Right.
this Angela Lansbury went on to a great career. She was just a super talented actor. And in this, or actress, whatever term you prefer, she was this, well, she plays this woman, Isadore Iselin. And according to Condon, she was based on the real character of Roy Cohn. And Roy Cohn is kind of like the mentor of Donald Trump. And Roy Cohn was kind of the Epstein before Epstein. He was involved in all kinds of blackmail and stuff, involved in targeting communists and things like that. He was kind of a behind the scenes guy. And I think he got disbarred, actually. Roy Cohn got disbarred at one point, which is never good if you're a lawyer. But there's pictures of him and Donald Trump together. So this kind of, like I said, this film has a lot of factual elements put into the narrative that relate to facts that happen in real world. So that's why I use this as a litmus. The reason I went back to Manchurian Candidate is because they can kind of absorb the information in a film sometimes easier than reading document after document after document. But I went back there because of the recent assassinations that have happened, or assassination attempts. And this is even before Charlie Kirk got killed. Rest in peace, Charlie. Yes. He didn't deserve it. But I was really yeah. So I'm very sympathetic, and it's really horrible news.
Yeah.
But I was really kind of interested in these other kind of assassins on Trump. And the list is actually longer than you think. It's very long. And it involves Ryan Ruth, Crooks, who's very mysterious. This is the July Butler thing of last year, 2024.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of people getting radicalized online. So there was this other guy. His name was Nikita Kasap. It ties into the Global Death Cult book, which is still my #1 selling book. I didn't know how many people would be interested in reading that, but it still sells more. Yeah. But Nikita Kasap is associated with the Order of Nine Angles. He called himself a Niner, which is a real kind of specific term. And his kind of online presence is verified and not fake like this Charlie Kirk's guys, which is like total joke. Like they think we're stupid. It's actually almost kind of like mocking the public, like duh. Anyway,
sure, man. Yeah.
There was this guy Boatner, if you remember him. He was in Minnesota and he killed 2 state senators or 2 state representatives.
Okay.
Yeah. Remember him? It kind of that story really dropped off fast. Like it just disappeared. But that's like, I mean, we can go. Robin Westman is the trans shooter at the church. Right. Carlos Brown is the name of the black guy who killed the Ukrainian girl on the train. Okay. Shane Tamura, if you remember him, he was the Blackstone shooter who walked onto the 33rd floor Mason number, and he killed people at an NFL office in New York City.
Yes.
Luigi Mangione, who's like in trial or something today, who strangely went from Oahu to New York to kill some head of a CEO at 7 a.m. in the morning. How did he know this guy was going to leave there at 7 a.m.? It's so strange. Like, how did he know to stalk a CEO? Like, I know he's coming out of this hotel at 7 a.m. I don't know. Like, these are very mysterious. And then there was also another shooting when Charlie got shot. His young kid, it kind of got lost in the mix. His name was Desmond Hawley, and he killed 2 people in Colorado. That's kind of overlooked. Tyler Robinson is the patsy, I think, in this kind of Charlie Robinson thing. But there are just so many names. And also, if you remember at the beginning of this year, there's 2 strange cases that happened on January 1st. Trump wasn't in office yet, but it was Leibelsberger who supposedly went to Las Vegas and killed himself under Trump Tower under that truck, the Tesla truck. Do you remember that? You'd have to go back and look. And then Jabbar was the guy who took his truck and drove down Bourbon Street in New Orleans and ran over a bunch of people.
I remember that one. Yeah.
So, so those are like 2. I mean, the list is long. This is just a topical list. Like we could go into like all the James Holmes, the Aurora shooter, a Korean kid who killed a bunch of people at like, I think West Virginia State or something. Sung Hee Cho was one, but there's been this spate of shootings that really took off since the 60s. And some of these people have gone through very unusual personality changes that are kind of like a mysterious. Like Luigi Mangione, for example, was kind of like I mean, people like your age or would call him a Chad, or I would call him just a winner or an alpha male or something. Like the guy's resume was legit. He was privileged. He had money. He went to a private prep school, like $60,000 a year or something crazy like that. He was the front head of his school of his class, so he was the valedictorian or something like that. Super smart, good looking guy. Like women liked him. He had good jobs. He was working in AI in Silicon Valley. And then he goes into some kind of strange place in Oahu, and his whole personality changes. He really identifies with Kaczynski. I mean, this is like traceable stuff, online stuff that he did. And then all decides to throw it all away by shooting a CEO, a healthcare CEO, for justice reasons is supposedly his motive. This is very strange. Like he could have just become an activist and said, "I'm going to work for healthcare for all" or something like that. But instead, he supposedly made like a printable gun, print outable gun, and then went and shot him. So there's many cases.
Is that what he used, a printed gun?
That's the rumor. Yeah, I don't know the other thing is that this kind of my research into this stuff took place while I was doing research on it. Just all really started because of all the assassins, but there were a couple assassins that looked into and were interested in Salinger's Catcher in the Rye, and they used it as kind of a manual, and they identified with the lead character Holden Caulfield, and those two were Chapman, who supposedly killed Lennon, and then Hinckley, who tried to kill Reagan. They were 4 months apart. That was 1980 and 81, if I remember correctly, something like that. So there's been these kind of famous assassins through American history, like almost yearly. And now it seems like the daily. Like I did a show with Hans Uter of the Resonant State, and he said, how many like shootings have there been over the last year or so? It's like crazy, hundreds. Like people are going nuts. So there's this kind of generalized madness. So I think it's important to kind of lead back to, and it all starts around this time of this kind of MK Ultra behavioral modification programs. It didn't really happen as much. And the people who shot people, the motive was right away. They didn't have they were either anarchists, or John Wilkes Booth was from the South, right? So he's pissed off about that. People who tried to kill Jackson, it's about banking, and he was always fighting. Jackson was just a rough and tumble guy, like really amazing. Like he had been in like killed 20 people and tons of duels and stuff like that. But a lot of maybe McKinley's another one. So every 20 years, a president dies or something like that in office. Up until recently, Trump probably should have died. I don't think that Crooks took that shot. So these are all kind of patsy types. Ruth, they act like patsies. They do strange stuff, and their histories are very vague, and they don't come up with admissions. Like, why would Crooks do this? He's like 22. Like, what's he thinking? Like, and some of these are like the rationales. They don't wash. They don't add up. So anyway, going back to kind of this film, Manchurian Candidate, it featured all these great actors. And really, what's also known in the background of this film, which a lot of people don't know, is that the genesis, the foundation of the film, is because of the relationship between Sinatra and JFK. And JFK and Sinatra were at Hyannisport, and they decided, like, hey, you should make a movie about this. And so Sinatra was kind of the big wig who got it done, but JFK had connections in Hollywood, and they greenlit the budget back then, which was $2.2 million. And Sinatra not only acted the lead, he was the production company, or he's the production head. So it was done under his production company, the name, which I can't remember right now. I have it somewhere. So that's an interesting aspect, because this film was taken out of distribution for 25 years. That's another fascinating aspect of the Manchurian Candidate, is the fact that it wasn't presented before the public for 25 years. So it's 62 plus 25 is 87, 88.
Oh, wow. So they didn't play it. So no one necessarily got to see it in 62. Wow. That's great. Like,
it played for a year, and then
okay.
And then JFK got it didn't do great in the box office, my understanding. I don't think it earned back its money, and people may not have understood it. But once JFK got shot, then it was taken out because it was similar to the JFK shooting. and then it was shelved for 25 years.
Wow.
And it's really incredible. It's in the top 100, and then when it came back out, it entered into the American Film Institute's top 100 films of all time, with The
Right.
Godfather, with all these great films,
Yeah, and it's a Criterion collection now, and
Yeah.
it's definitely an important movie for sure.
Very important. And the timestamp too. And then Frankenheimer is a very important character with an interesting arc. He was selected by Sinatra, and then after he finished the Manchurian Candidate, he shot 7 Days in May.
Okay. Yeah.
So and that came out the same month as Dr. Strangelove, which is
Oh wow.
July 1964. And so and the interesting thing about Frankenheimer is that he got permission directly from JFK to shoot at the White House. So if you watch 7 Days in May, you can see this White House scene that clearly has the main character whose name is I can't remember
Scott?
now.
James Mattoon Scott?
Yeah, no, that's the main character. He's played
Martin-
by
Martin Casey?
who's the actor? What's the actor's name?
Oh, sorry, Burt Lancaster?
Burt Lancaster and the other guy, I forgot. Anyway, you'll see them in the White House. There's literal White House scenes because I think what JFK was trying to do is show what he was up against. And I think that that's kind of maybe the backstory of the Manchurian Candidate that isn't really well seen, that isn't known. And there may be more research on my end to figure that out. But it really is something else. So it's a great movie. The arc is interesting. The shots are good. The key elements are like the Queen of Diamonds, which is kind of this triggering card. There are, great acting. And then there are things that, like I said, come out of fiction, but are actually factual. But yeah, we can look at those. We can look at the slides if you want. So that's it. That's the poster for the Manchurian Candidate. If you come in 5 minutes after this picture begins, you won't know what it's all about. There's never anything like it. I think maybe it was before its time. People didn't understand the subject matter. They didn't understand what was going, but Condon did. Like Condon really did. And I've kind of been doing research. A lot of the kind of behavioral modification, MK Ultra stuff, it was like being published back in magazines in the 50s. So people could have read about kind of the stuff like, oh, the Russians are doing mind control behind the Iron Curtain or all this other stuff. So I think he was able to do research that influenced the writing of the film. So there's Crooks, don't know much about him. Ruth, strange. Mangione, McVeigh, who's also strange. Chapman, Holmes, Hinckley, Livelsberger, Jabbar on the left, both associated with Fort Bragg. This is what the book cover looked like as the Manchurian Candidate, and that's what Richard Condon looked like. Great author, kind of really. I mean, I would suggest people get the book and read it. It's really good. It's a little different than the movie. There's pretty dark stuff in there that also pertains to traumatic mind control, which is incest. So the lead character that's played by Angela Lansbury, Eleanor, starts having sex with her dad when she's 10, and they do it in an attic. And then at the end, she puts her own son into a hypnotic trance, and then has sex with him. So
I figured, I could see
really
that
dark stuff. Yeah,
I could see that happening. Yeah.
You see here the shattering of the Queen of Diamonds. So it's like shattered brain motif, shattered mirror. And he talks about hypnosis through the book. It's pretty interesting. But here's where he admits that Roy Cohn is the inspiration. Also, Livia, so people who know their history, Livia was the mother of Augustus in the Roman Empire, and she just protected her son. She poisoned everybody and schemed and put him into the emperor. She was kind of the power behind the throne. But yeah, he talks about hypnosis. I mean, there's a popular notion, undoubtedly self-protective, that no one could be persuaded under hypnosis to do anything, which was inherently abhorrent to him. Reams of research have proved this to be untrue. So this is what he wrote in 1991. For people who don't know where Manchukuo or Manchuria is, it's above Korea. So the Korean War was 50 to 53. And for people who know that history, like, it was a ferocious battle. The West went all the way up to the border of China. Then the Chinese communists attacked. and they pushed back, and they're still at the 38th parallel. So you have the capitalists on the bottom, communists on the top, and above that is Manchurian. So in the film, the and the book, there's like Illuminati numbers in this too. So if you've read Prophet of Evil, you'll see that. But in the book, there's 11 members of this paratroop who like get taken up to Manchuria, and they are mind controlled. There's no other way to put it. So it's really kind of an interesting process. But they're taken up there, and there's kind of like, it's just a great sequence. We can play it, but you watched it last night. But we can do this. Let's look at the Manchurian numbers.
Whatever you want to put on.
Yeah, pull up this video if you can. So like 22 men carried 11 bodies to stretchers to be done to, and then there's like, yeah, for people who don't know, 11 is like the number of magic. It's the number of the New World Order. It's the macrocosm and microcosm coming together. It's all this stuff. But Yen Lo had inserted so many new values and perspectives into the minds of the 11 men. So he's doing behavioral control or behavioral modification to them. Yen Lo is the doctor, kind of the chief doctor involved in the film,
right?
And then
which in the movie, which in the remake, they make him a Russian guy, don't they?
I don't know, I don't remember. I'll have to watch the remake again. Well, I like the 62 version so much that
I agree, it's so good. It's so good. It's so
I
good.
watched the remake when it came out, and I was just like, this is kind of like a pale, copy of some movie that doesn't need to be. It's like Willy Wonka. Why do you guys want to remake these great movies? They're already great.
Over and over, yeah.
I know, it's just so crazy. But then, like Raymond Shaw, the main character, he goes to bed at 11. He reports at 11. There's actually 9 11s in this, believe it or not. Like, it's just off the charts. I don't think any of these things are accidental. At the intro, when Raymond Shaw gets the Medal of Honor, there's 911 names were stricken from the list. So, like, Condon is keyed in. He might have been a member of some kind of secret society. I don't know at this point. But then also when they're being reprogrammed, like all this stuff, total immersion time into the unconscious mind of the subject during the first contact had been 11 hours. The second descent was light induced. So they're inducing this kind of thing. The critical application of deep suggestion was observed during the first 11 hours of immersion, and the primary link to all future control was set in. So like, they're just like, he's just hitting you with all these 11s and stuff like that at crucial moments of the narrative and in the movie. Like, they do it to the movie. So at the very beginning of the movie, if you remember, this is like when Sinatra has his first dream. It happens at 3:11. And a lot of the people have noted he was kind of like the schizo. If you remember, he had all these books. So he's like reading all these books. Like, he's the 1960s version or 50s version of the schizo researcher, kind of like me, where like he's got tons of books trying to put things together.
Yeah.
And it's a chain smoker too, chain smoker and drinker. I don't smoke anymore, thank God. But it's just kind of a funny, those are the motifs that are in there, I think. Like, oh, he's a reader. And then let's see, I think that I have some videos.
This nation jealously guards its high.
Can you hear that audio?
Yep.
Award for valor, the Congressional Medal of Honor. In the Korean War, with 5,720,000 personnel engaged, only 77 men were so honored.
That's not true. That's totally fictional, but he just made it out. So out of 5,700,000, 77. 77 is the number of, like, there's 77 names of the devil. It's a power number. There's Liber 77 by Crowley. It's just so many things. It's half of the beast in Babylon. It's just a very important, like, dark occult number.
When I get married to my old lady, I got no idea that this guy comes in the same package.
When I marry my old lady, I got no idea this guy comes in the same package.
That it's a package deal, and for 11 long years, I got this drunk.
11 long years, I got this drunk. This is not a mistake. This is in there for a reason. Because then, yeah, I mean, it's there for the audience or the insiders. But basically a magical kind of event. And what they're implying is that this kind of hypnosis is kind of like a creation of a magic spell or something. But then this main character, Lawrence Harvey, then throws down a queen of diamonds and literally, listen, you got to watch it.
Tied around my neck. And believe me, it's no bargain. You got no idea what kind of a problem I got with this guy.
Sorry I'm late, kid. Got held up in traffic, you know.
Again. So I says to him, please do me a favor, will you? Why don't you go and take yourself a cab and go up to Central Park and go jump in the lake?
Then he takes the cabs and goes up to Central Park and jumps in a lake. He doesn't know why. And this is how like Shaw or Marco keys into what's going on. He doesn't understand. And that's kind of one of the interesting themes or arcs of the film is how Marco is putting the pieces together. It's almost a kind of investigative journalist in himself. He doesn't know what happened, but he's trying to do the reading and talk to his military psychiatrist and try to figure it out himself. Yeah.
Raymond, I don't know why yours is the only apartment in New York City without an air conditioner. You know, sometimes I think you came to us for another century. Chu Chin Chow, or whatever your name is. The steaks are to be broiled for exactly 11 minutes, no more, no less, on each side in a preheated grill at 400 degrees.
So this witch lady who, like in some like things online, Eleanor Island is, I mean, Angela Lansbury is brilliant. Like she does, there's really good interviews with her in her real kind of person. And she's just so easygoing and breezy. And she's such a monster in this, but in certain things, she's like one of the most famous, like enemies or nemesis type characters in film history as Eleanor Island, because she's super manipulative. She's just manipulating everybody behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, it just shows, this is just one aspect and element of the book and film is this kind of, people call it occult numerology, sure, whatever you want to call it, illuminated numbers, whatever's easier to kind of see that they're just in there. I mean, it's just not a joke. So then Manchuria, that's it. One of the interesting things I saw that one of your commenters commented this. I had already made this slide. Sinatra was in a film in 54, 55 called Suddenly, starring him. He's literally gets a rifle to shoot the president and a motorcade. Like you can't write this stuff.
So eerily close to JFK in many ways. It's crazy.
Yeah. And then Sterling Hayden ends up being the bad guy, Jack Ripper, in Dr. Strangelove. The guy who's whacked out and talking about genes and fluoride in the water and starting World War III. Like, and some of those military generals were out of their minds. They were whacked. They were just really crazy. There's no question about it. I don't know, crazy, whatever word you want to use. But they just, a lot of those guys had gone through World War II and Korea and just bombed the cities like incredible. They were used to killing. So like they just were in a different wavelength. Like, yeah, they're communist. They're not white. We're just going to blast the living daylights out of them. But I think that's what was represented. These are pictures of Sinatra and Kennedy together just to show they were friends, you know. They were close friends. Like they would spend a lot of time together. When Kennedy won, like Sinatra supported Kennedy, wrote songs, sung songs for him in 60. And then when Kennedy won, the person at the helm to get celebrities for the inauguration was Sinatra.
Exactly.
So Sinatra enlisted all his buddies. Hey guys, come on, to kind of, you know, support this guy. So I think that's cool.
Yeah.
This is the, you know, predominant symbol of the film and the book, which is why it's predominant in this. And Dr. Yenlo says, we will use this because Raymond has aggression towards his mom, and this will be an important part of his psychology. So the Queen of Diamonds is like his mother, his dislike for his mother. He doesn't like his mother or his stepfather.
No, not at all.
They're in Korea, 1952. There he is with the, he's one of 77 guys who gets the Medal of Honor. 311. He wakes up. Great sequence here. We can watch the sequence if you want to, but like, it's one of the most brilliantly shot things because I think it really shows to the audience the different perceptions these guys can have, and also
we should watch a little piece of it.
Okay, I got it right here. Let's see if we can bring it up.
And it's interesting. I don't know if you're going to bring it up, but I noticed that Marco, Frank Sinatra's dream, and
The
Melvin.
black guy.
Yeah, it's funny because Frank Sinatra's seen all white women, and the other guy's seen black women. Did you notice that too? Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's very
that-
clever. So they're seeing something within their own consciousness, or
okay.
their own mind frame, or something like that.
So I thought maybe they were.
The war in Korea was over.
But this is like we're talking about, like he's the schizo, so he's got like diseases, Wall
All
Street
sorts
Men and
of
Money, Enemies of the State book, like so he's all
Captain, now
he's
Major
noided,
Bennett
I guess is the word. He's paranoid.
Marco had been reassigned to Army intelligence in Washington. It was by and large a pleasant assignment, except for one thing. Night after night, the Major was plagued by the same reoccurring nightmare.
Stop. Stop.
Another modern discovery, which we owe to the hydrangea, concerns the influence of air drainage upon plant climate. Many years ago,
This is a great 360 panning shots of like all the people who are like into cinema. It's just one loop and then they switch out the characters. Like it's very clever. And apparently Frankenheimer had come up through TV shooting, so he's familiar with sound stages and stage decoration. So, you know, back in those days, you would just slide stuff around. Like there would be a huge sound stage with a fake backdrop. And I think that's what they did here very cleverly, in my opinion. I mean, I just love this movie so much. So good.
when I was traveling about the country, I noticed magnificent hydrangeas on the hills where the air drainage was perfect, and very poor specimens, or perhaps none at all, in the valleys. Formerly, we used to consider sheltered valleys more favorable to plants than hilltops. But the avoidance of late spring and early autumn frost enjoyed by sites with good air drainage, where the cold air can drain safely away to lower levels, gives the hills a decided advantage. Thus it was the hydrangeas that gave the first pointer in another modern discovery of horticultural importance. From this, it might appear that the hydrangea is a fairly simple plant, but there are more complications. The cultivation of hydrangeas was evolved from a number of varieties originally found in Japan, not all of which, of course, have the same characteristics. Two of them do not share the quality of producing blue flowers in mineral-rich soils.
So for people who haven't seen this is Dr. Yen Lo. And then this guy on the left is actually, he's ethnically Italian. Forgot his name, Silva.
Really?
Yeah, but he ended up playing like, he was a character actor who always got stuck with these Asian roles or whatever. His name is Silva something. I forgot his first name, but he's Chun Jin. So this is the handling thing. People are sort of following. They end up following. Pardon?
Henry Silva. Sorry.
Thank you, Henry Silva. They end up following him all the way from the communist countries to New York City, which is really interesting. And then Chun Jin becomes Lawrence Harvey's or Raymond Shaw's like factotum or his butler or something like that.
Yeah,
but and Yen Lo also comes and like takes care of Raymond Shaw in New York City at a fake medical institution. And you actually see that in a lot of these MK Ultra things, is where they actually have real medical things and they make new wings to do testing on people. So they didn't create like new organizations or create new buildings. They just expanded on already working things, and it was a perfect cover. And Condon smartly reflects this reality in the book. It's really important to understand. That's Stalin and Mao Zedong in the background. And I think that's the goal, the star of communism. And some of these guys on the right are like true Manchurian candidates. I think they are pictures of some of the pilots that were jettisoned their planes, over Korea and were caught, and they were subjected to thought reform. And that was kind of like one of the things the communists, they wanted everybody to be on board with communism. Like the whole capitalist thing has to be done away with because it's inferior. And they would do all kinds of things, struggle sessions. Like that's like the stuff that you put up with here. That goes back to, it's basically communist thought reform. Like, why did you do that? Do you think that's bad? They would do that. And people are like, yeah, whatever you want. Like, just stop torturing me and do whatever. And I'll just go along with anything you say. So, but I think those two guys on the right, I haven't confirmed that yet.
Allow me to introduce our American visitors. I must ask you to forgive their somewhat lackadaisical manners, but I have conditioned them, or brainwashed them, which I understand is the new American word, to believe that they are waiting out a storm in the lobby of a small hotel in New Jersey, where a meeting of the Ladies' Garden Club is in progress.
You will notice that I have told them they may smoke. I've allowed my people to have a little fun in the selection of bizarre tobacco substitutes. Are you enjoying your cigarette, Ed?
Yes, ma'am. Yak dung. Oh, tastes good, like a cigarette should.
So he's making them smoke all this stuff. It's basically yak manure, right? That's what he's saying. Smoking yak manure.
Okay. Yeah.
Laughing about it.
Now then, comrade.
May I present the famous Raymond Shaw?
Young man, you've flown 8,000 miles to this dreary spot in Manchuria to see. Raymond, pull your chair over here by me, please. I am sure you've all heard the...
So this is the thing. He's a candidate. He's been selected for this. He's pre-selected. He's shipped around. And then he's going to be shipped back to the U.S.
The old wives' tale that no hypnotized subject may be forced to do that which is repellent.
And those two guys on the right, I got to figure out who those guys are. If anybody knows who those two pictures are, those two guys on the right, let me know.
To his moral nature, whatever that may be. Nonsense, of course. Yeah. Oh, you note-takers might set down a reminder to consult Brenman's paper, Experiments in the Hypnotic Production of Antisocial and Self-Injurious Behavior, or Wells' 1941 paper, which was titled, I believe, Experiments in the Hypnotic Production of Crime.
Or, of course, Andrew Salter's remarkable book, Conditioned Reflex Therapy, to name only 3. Or if it offends you that only the West is working to manufacture more crime and better criminals.
Against the modern shortages, I suggest Krasnogorsky's Primary Violence Motivation, or Sirov's The Unilateral Suggestion to Self-Destruction.
My dear Jan, as you grow older, you grow more long-winded. Can't we get to the point? Has the man ever killed anyone? Or has he not?
I apologize, my dear Dmitri. I keep forgetting that you're a young country and your attention span is limited. Tell me, Raymond, have you ever killed anyone?
No, ma'am.
Not even in combat?
In combat? Yes, ma'am, I think so.
Of course you have, Raymond. Raymond has been a crack shot since childhood.
Marvelous outlet for his aggressions. May I have the bayonet, please?
Not with the knife, with the hands.
With the hands?
Here, have him use this.
Ah, da.
Apparently this guy's name is like Ding Ling or something like that. I forgot what his name was, but he also had a good run in the original Hawaii Five-0. His name was Kig Dig. He had a hard to pronounce name, but he's great. He's awesome.
Raymond, whom do you dislike the least in your group here today?
The least?
That's right.
Well, I guess Captain Markham, ma'am.
You notice how he is always drawn to authority? That won't do, Raymond. We need the captain to get you your medal. Whom else?
Well, I guess Ed Mavoli, ma'am.
Ah, that's better. Now then, Raymond, take this scarf. and strangle Ed Mavoli to death.
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, man.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Hey, Sarge, cut it up. What? Quiet, Ed, please.
You might want to watch out if you're streaming to YouTube. You could get a complaint. Are you streaming to YouTube?
Yeah, we can cut it
You
there.
better watch out. But it's kind of interesting. Goes back. There's post-hypnotic suggestion. There's Eleanor Iselden. She's the king queen behind the throne, so to speak. There's more things. He shoots this other guy. There's kind of a symbolic like brain thing where he literally points the gun at the audience, which I think is interesting. Yeah. Like it's like we're blowing your brains out with this information. I think that's the implication.
Crazy.
There's the African American guy. He has the same response. He's the kindest, most gentle person I've ever met in my life. He doesn't even know why he's saying that. It's like, oh yeah, he's the most. Raymond Shaw's the kindest, bravest, warmest, most wonderful human being I've ever known in my life. So that's post-hypnotic suggestion. This is interesting too because it plays into we can probably play this. I don't know if we'll get in trouble. I don't want to get you in trouble. Anyway, so that's the kind of video. That's it. Screenshots are fun. Yenlo, he's scared. He says, Raymond Shaw is the kindest, bravest, warmest, most wonderful human being. So they both repeat the phrase. Marco does. There's the shot against the public. He actually gets told to start playing solitaire over the phone. And actually during the artichoke kind of discussions, they found that they could induce hypnotic states by a simple phone call. It's actually written in the 1950s documents. So this is a reflection of some of the techniques that they knew. It's pretty remarkable. So Condon integrated it into the book. There he is under the gaze. He's kept in a hypnotic state in a medical facility. This guy shows up. There's actually NLP in here. If you remember in the sequence, he can't remember. The Iselin can't remember how many communists there are. Like, how many communists are there? And he's like, she sees the Heinz 57, and that's how he remembers the 57. So the image of the bottle is in his brain, and he remembers it. There's also this kind of like morphing of, it's a foreshadowing and a morphing of Iselin. He dresses up as Lincoln.
Right.
There's a lot of Lincoln busts, and then he's assassinated like Lincoln, right? So that's like one of the foreshadowings in the thing. This is where Marco realizes that two people in his dream are actually high-level, communist figures. This is actually an interesting sequence because this is where there's another foreshadowing. It shows kind of Condon's writing chops in the sense that he references this whole classical Greek mythological thing about Agamemnon. He talks about Orestes and Clytemnestra, but what happens is Clytemnestra kills Agamemnon and Orestes kills his mother. So that's what happens at the end of the movie. He shoots his mother, if you remember.
Yeah.
After, you're not supposed to know that, like, Marco successfully breaks his conditioning. That's really what happens. And so you think that he's still conditioned. He's not. But he goes to Madison Square Garden to shoot his mom and his stepfather, who he's always hated.
Right.
And who are pretty repulsive people, actually. So I'm not justifying that. I'm just saying that that was their thing. Queen of Diamonds, he goes, jumps in the lake. This guy's really good too. I don't know his name, but he plays the military psychiatrist.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, really good. I don't know. I wonder what kind of acting career he went on to do. But he was like trying to, they're on this kind of investigative mission to try to determine what's going on. He's like, this solitaire game's some kind of trigger. Let's look at the face cards. This is where she says 11 to Henry Silva. Here she is as the queen, right? So she's dressed up as the Queen of Diamonds. And she's the queen, and then he's looking at the bust of Lincoln while he's under his hypnotic spell. Then his girlfriend comes in, the queen. She breaks the spell. Queen comes back. Where's Raymond? He has the loaded deck. And then Raymond kind of gets away and goes and shoots his girlfriend.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. Over the Masonic checkerboard floor, too, right?
That's right. That's right.
And she explains what she's going to do to him. She kisses him in the movie. In the book, they do the deed. They have sexual congress. Pretty dark. He dresses up as a priest. And then these are all the 11 references. These are the movies that came out. Kirk Douglas, Ava Gardner, 7 Days of May. Dr. Strangelove comes out. And then, like, so many other assassins are around that are kind of like the Saran. I did a thing on, let's see, there's like the assassination of Kennedy, Manchurian Candidate stuff. And then, like, look at this. Like, they brought out Mangione in the same outfit that.
Oh my God.
That Oswald was in.
I haven't seen that before.
Yeah,
That's wild, William. Jesus, look at that.
Yeah, it's pretty
cool. That's creepy as hell.
We can go into kind of like the similarities between the film and Oswald if you want to. I don't know how much time you got.
I got plenty of time, so
let me just bring those slides up.
We can keep going, my friend.
All right. I know YouTube is like the most sensitive side. If they come up with an excuse to kick you off there, they'll take it. There's just no question about it.
I mean, it looks like we're still streaming and everything, so I guess we're fine, right?
It's your site. Like, I've given up on YouTube. I'm done. That's an abusive relationship as far as I'm concerned. Like, I never swore. I just was a researcher, but that was actually too much. So I never thought that my channel would be taken down. Like, come on, man, this is crazy.
When did that happen?
Right at the beginning when they were all taken down. I guess it was early 2020 or 2021. It was during COVID. I've had 2 taken down. Like, they're not going to give it back to me.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. But so this film kind of also is similar to what happened in the JFK assassination. There are definitely parallels. There's definitely elements of this. And Oswald is a strange character. Oswald had an amazing life. The guy when he died at 24, he had lived an amazing life. There's just absolutely no question about it. And he had gone. He was I think he was studied at New York. His dad had died early. He was a truant. Then his mom moved to New Orleans. He was in the Civil Air Patrol with David Ferry. If you remember, do you know who David Ferry is?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
So David Ferry is kind of like one of the characters in JFK. Oliver Stone's JFK.
Joe Pesci. Yep.
There's pictures of them together, believe it or not, or a picture of them together. And then he's kind of handled much like Raymond Shaw's handled. So Raymond Shaw's handled by Dr. They literally say, I'm handing you over to your next. Yeah. So handed over from Yenlo to as Eleanor Iselden. Well, this guy's very similar. He has so many powerful and crazy people with crazy connections over his life. You cannot even believe it. So he actually goes from David Ferry to Raymond Shaw to Bannister. He's put into a COINTELPRO program. So he's literally kind of in an FBI program. He infiltrates the Fair Play for Cuba as a communist. They put him on TV. They established this legend, much like they established a legend with Raymond Shaw. The legend of Raymond Shaw is that he's a war hero, that he won the Medal of Honor. They never fought anybody. It was totally fiction. They had it all plotted out, much like I think they had it plotted out. If you remember, Oswald was at Tsugi Air Force Base, which is in Japan, and then he gets demoted. He's in the hospital too for a strange amount of time. They're clearly doing LSD experimentation at Atsugi, like we know that it was like a lot of suspicious people were there, like like a Sidney Gottlieb, who was kind of like the poisoner in chief. But he then gets demoted, sent back to the U.S., and then he defects. He defects, and it's in the paper. So he literally goes to like Central Russia. There's documents that he's talking to a CIA attaché outside of Moscow, and then he's there for like a month or 18 months. Comes back. He's allowed back into the country, and then he's moved into position in Dallas. And so you had, like I mentioned earlier, Ferry, Shaw, Bannister. Then strangely, this woman, Ruth Payne, picks him up in New Orleans and drives him to Dallas. And it's at her house. Like, it ties into the Charlie Kirk shooting, because the rifle that supposedly shot Kennedy is found at her house. Like, I don't think it's found at the book depository.
No,
yeah, I think it's found at her house in Irving. I have to double check, but I think they found a cartridge there at the book depository, but not the thing. Guess who got Lee Harvey Oswald a job at the book depository?
I'm not sure.
Ruth Payne. So this woman who takes him all the way to Irving gets him a job at the depository. So she's like a crucial component. She just passed away like 2 weeks ago at 92. So she took a lot of secrets to her grave. She's really very important person. And there's a really good documentary about her called "The Assassination and Ruth Payne." It's by Max Good.
Okay.
And he's be a great guest for anybody, really. I've had him on my show. A lot of this information I got because I studied a lot of other kind of JFK assassination guys. So I've done shows on Ferry. Like, I've done 3 shows on the history of David Ferry. And I've had some of the best scholars to the JFK assassination on my show. And I've done shows on Garrison. And Garrison himself said David Ferry was one of the most important people who ever lived. This strange kind of like defrocked priest who liked teen boys, who was into hypnosis and giving post-hypnotic suggestions to the young boys, and is now looking over Oswald. And it's really something else. Like, one of the primary things that Jim Garrison was trying to do is trying to make sure that there was an established nexus between, people didn't know this much at the time, but a nexus between Ferry, Shaw. We know so many other researchers have done this. This is not my research, but a nexus between Ferry, Bannister, Shaw, and Oswald, that they were all friends and people had seen them together and stuff like that. So that's why when he arrested Shaw and then prosecuted him criminally, they were trying to get people who had seen them together.
Right.
And they did. This one guy who was it was the Kevin Bacon character who plays the gay gigolo.
The prostitute, yeah.
Yeah, he kind of says, "Oh yeah, I saw them together," and blah blah blah, and this is really true. So, it's really a poor part of history, and that's actually the strange thing, is that Ferry was interviewed by we have these files. Ferry was interviewed by the FBI after the Kennedy assassination, and they didn't even suspect him as a participant, and they just let him go. And he just kind of wandered around for years. He liked to dress up as a priest. He was a member of this Orthodox priest wandering bishop thing. So it's kind of ties into the Manchurian Candidate. At the end, they disguise Raymond Shaw as a priest, if you remember, right? And so a lot of these guys are involved in this thing that kind of dropped off, but this kind of like non-standard priest thing. There's also weird ties to the Knights of Malta. Shaw was a Knight of Malta. It's believed that he's a Knight of Malta. He's on a list as a Knight of Malta. And that would tie him to Dulles, who's also a Knight of Malta. A lot of people didn't know at the time, or they wouldn't relate it in the papers, is that Shaw was really a war hero. He had been highly decorated as an aide-de-camp to a general named Thrasher. And he was heavily involved in Operation Overlord, which is the invasion of France in June of 1944. Thrasher was, and Raymond Shaw. And so Shaw was a kind of known military entity. It's not really brought up in JFK. Like, I think Oliver Stone's JFK is great, but it's like people complain about it. But
Sure.
to get all the details right,
I
you would have
know.
to made like,
It's a great movie.
yeah, you would have made a 65,000 hour movie.
Yeah.
So to distill it all in there, he was trying. The gist of it is trying to prove that the cover story of the assassination is a bunch of baloney, and I think he did that. So
And he did that. Yeah.
Just some of these details get left out, but Oswald is a very important. He's somewhat left out as this kind of like hapless guy, which he kind of is hapless, but the fact that he's being oversaw by de Mohrenschildt, who's a white Russian, and Payne and Ferry, these other like Ferry, according to Daniel Hopsicker, Ferry is a CIA agent. And I noticed somebody mentioned in the comment the connection to Barry Adler Seal, in that both Barry Adler Seal as a young guy, and for people who don't know, the Civilian Air Patrol was kind of a post World War II Gladio-like. I don't think it was an exact Gladio thing, but it was definitely a grounds where they would train boys to learn how to pilot. And so Civilian Air Patrol, they call it CAP. That's the acronym. And Lee Harvey Oswald was in the one that was in New Orleans, and then Barry Seal was the one in Baton Rouge, pretty close to each other.
Right. Okay.
The overlap may have been there. I don't. Maybe history has lost it. Maybe they knew each other. But for people who don't know Barry Seal, he went on to get his pilot license. He was a commercial pilot, much like David Ferry. Like, David Ferry is so bizarre because he's doing all this weird stuff on the side, but he's literally like, if you went to go on a Southwest flight, you would have run across somebody like Ferry. Like, that's what he did. He transported people in his plane. Like, literally, like, he worked for Eastern, which before, you guys, young guys' time, that used to be a major airline.
Okay.
And so he would transport. And actually, one of the interesting things about Ferry is that he was brought up on moral charges, like immorality charges. And so they really kind of, they were concerned about his homosexuality, his propensity for young boys or teen boys. And so they tried to either kick him out. And one of the people who came to his defense was this ex-FBI agent, Bannister. So we have the documents, or somebody found the documents of these two together, like at a court trial, like at Ferry being deposed. And his character references Bannister, who's doing all kinds of surreptitious stuff with Oswald and the Castro Cubans and all this other stuff. So Ferry, while he's transporting people around, is also running guns. They think he's running guns, and actually some people have said he might have been a top secret clearance in flying U-2 spy planes, and that's why he had severe alopecia, is because when you go up at those high altitudes, it does something to your capillaries, and they think he might have gotten alopecia from that. So he, like, when you see pictures of Ferry, he always had these weird eyebrows and like hair. It was all fake. He had to put it on there to kind of look semi-normal. Ferry is a strange guy, totally brilliant, but like a tortured homosexual who got kicked out of the Catholic Church. Like, they never wrote like, this guy's like chasing young boys around. They just would say something really vague, like left the church due to certain predilections, very vague type stuff.
As they always do, right? That's what you like, whether it's a documentary or like the Spotlight movie, or like I've read a couple books on it, like that's the thing they always do. It's just moved for this reason or moved around, or it's always just a vague entry in a journal, and sometimes that journal just disappears, right? So it's ridiculous.
And he's also associated with the Marcello crime family, and so is the Oswalds, believe it or not. Like, Marcello permeated New Orleans. And even just the story of Marcello is really interesting because he was kind of targeted by the Kennedy brothers. If you remember, John Kennedy is the president, but then Robert is the attorney general.
Right.
And their dad is mob associated or mob friendly. And the story is that the election was turned in 1960 with the help of the mob in Chicago and West Virginia. Right. They dumped a bunch of votes the last minute. So they like squeaked out a victory. And then Robert F. Kennedy turns on the mob. They have all these hearings, and then they take Marcelo and they ship him off to Guatemala. Like, okay, you're kicked out of the country. Marcelo, I don't know if he was an American citizen. He's definitely born in Italy, but the person who is alleged to have brought and flown Marcelo back to the United States is David Ferry. And
Oh,
I mean,
come on.
yeah, you cannot buy you
That's
can't believe
wild.
this stuff. Yeah, you can't believe this stuff. But it would be correct. It makes sense because the day of the shooting was a Friday. The day of the JFK assassination was November 22nd, 1963. And who's in court with Marcelo was David Ferry. So it's almost like he's spotted in court, like, hey, I wasn't there. Hey, but then he disappears. And he takes these two young of his boys, lovers or whatever, whose names I can't remember right now. One of them had like a French last name like yours. And it's kind of interesting. Like maybe some of your relatives, like the Arcadians, they like either got kicked out of Canada and went to New Orleans, or one way around, like something like that. But anyway, they went to their scene all the way in Houston. They drove this mysterious drive to Houston, and he's like calling people on a payphone, which is how you like cover stuff up. And no, he never told why he was in Houston. He told the public like an unbelievable story. They just want to go ice skating. So he gets in a car, drives from New Orleans, just like an unbelievable. The rumor is that they were exfiltrating the shooting teams out of the U.S. straight to Mexico, and Ferry was assisting in that process. So they moved into Dallas, committed the deed, and disappeared out of the country or to Mexico, which was really kind of there were two big CIA stations at that time, and the biggest outside the U.S. was Mexico City, but there was another one in Miami. They called it JM Wave or something like that. So Ferry's like super important. Like he's a really interesting guy, and he's literally like associated with Oswald. And a lot of this stuff, like you have to think at the time, like in '63, they didn't have access to this information. Oswald was a classic lone nut. He was just an angry communist who decided he wanted to shoot Kennedy, right? He's an angry leftist. That's the way they did it. That's the way they presented it to the public. And that's what they tried to establish during the Warren Commission. But like, I mean, and Garrison kind of saw through that. He's like, this does not make sense. There's a larger conspiracy. And his book, I mean, is called The Trail of the Assassins. It has really interesting stuff. In hypnotism, believe it or not, he was trying to hypnotize Russo, who is this guy, to try to get good information out of him. So this kind of hypnotic process is like even involved in the JFK assassination. And there's actually like other hypno kind of MK Ultra doctors association. Have you ever seen the movie JFK with Oliver Stone?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Do you remember the intro kind of scene where the woman gets chucked on the road and she's like,
"Yep,
they're gonna kill Kennedy." Her name was Rose Laramie. She's an interesting character. Her doctor, when she ended up in like Oklahoma, was a guy named Gittinger, who was like a full MK Ultra CIA doctor. And she ended up dead in like a hospital or something. Like she just had to go. But like he was involved in a thing called Midnight Climax, where they were testing people who didn't know, they were testing LSD on them. And so he's actually connected to that. And you can look it up. And she was kind of like a troubled person. I think she was a part-time prostitute, drug runner, heroin runner. But she ran into some really dark operators. And Gittinger's he shows up all over the place. Really interesting guy. But it's just in the whole kind of melange or whatever word, the heady stew of the JFK assassination is really something else. And there is Oswald right in the middle of it, who's being kind of, there's a legend or sheep dip around him the whole time by very powerful figures. And another one who knew Oswald there's a bunch of people who knew Oswald who were important before 1963. One guy's name was Kerry Thornley. Have you ever heard of the name Kerry Thornley?
I don't recall.
He's really interesting. He's tied for some reason to Oswald, and he was in Atsugi with Oswald. And he wrote a book called, like, I think The Lonely Warrior, that Oswald was the central figure before the assassination.
Whoa.
And then he gets assassinated, and then Thornley kind of like becomes a Discordian, which is kind of like this alternate religion. And then he writes another book about Oswald called Oswald. Like, he relates to Oswald and how he's being followed by intel people, and that he has a chip implanted in his brain, like all kinds of just totally crazy stuff. Yeah, look up Kerry Thornley, because he's with him back in at Sugi and at an Air Force base in California before 1960. One of the other interesting stories about Oswald is that while he's in Russia, he runs into this woman, Macmillan, and she interviews him. She interviews him and Marina, and she's kind of like a journalist. She goes on to write a book called Marina and Lee. That's an establishment of the kind of narrative story that Lee's an angry loner who's bitter and wants to kill the president, right? And it's a long book. It's kind of like 400 pages. And some of these new documents came out in this Luna 2025 release, right, within the year. And in those documents, it shows that she's under the pay of the CIA. She's a CIA asset, and probably always was. She probably always was a CIA asset, and she's writing these books that are just complete baloney. So they can really create. And I think that this is just one element. I mean, you can throw Catcher in the Rye, maybe some other books in there that are just, they don't make sense that they're generated normally. They're also promoted in different ways. So like if you see Marina and Lee, it's like New York Times, this is the best view of this book I've ever seen in my life. Kirkus Review, the definitive study of Lee and Marina. You know, it's just complete fiction. It's literally 400 pages of fiction, in my opinion. Like provable nonsense. So these are multiple people who Lee Harvey Oswald. One of the thing is that he, similar to some of these other assassins who make these huge moves across state lines. Like Ruth, we know, is in Ukraine, he's in Oahu, he's in Florida with no discernible income that it could afford these expensive plane flights. Like these, you can't just fly there for $100. These are like $500, $1,000 plane flights around. Wow. And he's moving around. Same with Lee Harvey Oswald. When he fled to the Soviet Union, he had a big wad of money, and he stayed in Helsinki at the finest hotel, and then he defected and came out. And when he was at Tsugi is like an Air Force base basically in the suburbs of Tokyo. Like he was known to hang out at the nicest bars and spend more money than he was making. Kind of a very strange character. And there's other documents that have come out have said there's a story by somebody about Lee Harvey Oswald being a CIA agent. We need to suppress this story. like these stories were coming out about him. There was also an interesting thing. Have you ever heard the story of Frank Olson?
I think so.
He was one of the early kind of LSD kind of guys.
Frank Olson, of course. Yeah,
yes. I think he worked at Fort Detrick. There's a guy, Hank Abarelli, wrote a really good book about him. He was either thrown out of a window or jumped himself. I tend to believe the former, not the latter. But when he died, it was kind of like a big thing within the intel community. And a missive was sent to Atsugi by none other than Alan Dulles that said all LSD experimentation is to stop at Atsugi Air Force Base. So we know that they were doing it there. Like they wouldn't send it to stop because they weren't doing it, right? It's because they were doing LSD. And the subjects were military people. And if you look through a lot of the kind of MK Ultra experimentation and stuff, they were experimenting a lot on military people and a lot on prisoners too, believe it or not. State and federal prisoners got a lot of strange treatments and stuff like that. So Oswald is just, he's surrounded by people much like Raymond Shaw. Raymond Shaw doesn't understand all this stuff. He's being moved around. And it's just crazy. This is his picture when he was younger. No father. And a lot of these guys have the same kind of thing where no father figure in their life. This is a remarkable picture of Lee Harvey Oswald in 1957, Arlington Heights. It was taken in 1956, and this woman's pointing at him, and she says, "Bing, you're hypnotized," to Lee Oswald at the old bio lab.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
This is the notification of Lee Harvey Oswald when he defects. This is where he says, "I'm a patsy," right? If you ever see that video, he's like, I'm a patsy, bro. Alan Dulles is famous for starting MK Ultra in 1953, head of the CIA. He's also involved in all kinds of global shenanigans, like overthrowing Iran, Guatemala. He is a real power broker, like his brother John Foster Dulles. He also had a clubfoot and gout. You can see on his right hand, he has like this withered claw hand. Like he's almost like out of central casting or something like that. It's crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah, he is very interesting.
Yeah.
He was fired. He was let go after the Bay of Pigs incident. And that's where it all began. Probably where the Bay of Pigs is where they decided Kennedy has to go. And behind Dulles there is Richard Bissell, who's another clever operator, this kind of Cold Warrior operator guy. These guys, the people, they're just really incredible characters. And I'm not using a moral judgment, but like Dulles is really a remarkable guy. He was the head of the whole OSS intel thing against Germany from Switzerland. This is from Tim Gardner Project at Tim G. Prod. A lot of good researchers that I've got on Twitter too. But he's like Alan Dulles, that little Kennedy, he thought he was a god. So he had a very different kind of take on Kennedy. Kennedy rubbed these guys the wrong way. There was just something about the Kennedy brothers. They just didn't make friends.
Sure.
They didn't seem to need other people. They had kind of like, I don't know if that's really true, but there were certain people they just didn't gel with. Like they're in that kind of elite community, and his dad was an ambassador to the court of St. James and all that stuff. But it's almost like they were rivals because they were Irish and Catholic, and these guys are all Protestant wasps, So it's almost like they had some kind of thing going on between them. I don't know. Like the assassination itself, like they could have killed Kennedy some other way, but they really wanted to shoot him in an open air thing, Like it's real personal. It's real.
Yeah.
Really disgusting. From Hitler's doorstep, like intelligence reports, like this just shows who he was. His nickname was the Shark. Like he's not like Cuddle Bear or Mr. Warm and Fuzzy. And he you see his pictures, he kind of is like that. And he's let me see. I got some video on Dulles we can watch.
Sure.
Actually, let me see if I can get this to play. This is John Frankenheimer. This is interesting because it kind of goes back to, I don't know if this will play or not, but it just kind of goes back to the, oh yeah, can you bring that up? This is right before Frank Sinatra died. Can you hear the audio on that?
Yep.
In 1962, a film exploded onto movie screens all over the world that was destined to become a classic.
Why is all of this being done? What have they built you to do?
Tell me, Raymond, have you ever killed anyone?
No, ma'am.
Not even in combat?
In combat?
Why don't you take time to play some solitaire?
This is he.
Raymond, why don't you pass the time by playing a little solitaire?
26 years later, John Frankenheimer, the director, George Axelrod, the writer, and Frank Sinatra, the film's star, reunite for the first time to discuss the making of The Manchurian Candidate.
When you became part of it, it became a real movie. Without you, we wouldn't have had...
Watch how little the Sinatra has to pour into his mouth. Like he passed away about a year later, but like he doesn't have to turn the glass too much. Watch
the movie.
Thank you very much.
No, but that's true. When you did something that most people just don't do, and which is that you committed to this on faith in us.
I remember that, yes.
It was really a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience. And you let me do what I was able to do. You let George do what he was able to do. There was none of this constant interference that you read about today.
It's so simple to explain. We three people believed what we were doing. We wouldn't have been together if we hadn't believed it. And I think that really was the answer to how it came about. It's not the fact that I let you do what you wanted to do. Not at all.
From my point of view, I remember two things that you contributed that were extraordinary because you didn't really know you were contributing. I was working on the script in New York, but this time you were in California, and a certain amount of time had elapsed. And and you were very, very patient. You hadn't seen the script yet. And finally you called and said, I'd like to see some pages. And it's been quite a while. I don't mean 20 pages. I mean, I would like to see a few more pages than 20 pages. As it happened, you were absolutely psychic. I had 20 pages. So I ended up absolute panic. I finally got my stuff together. I had all the stuff laying. I'd never put it together. I was frightened. Yeah. Over the weekend, I got you 80 pages and sent it. I would never have pushed the thing over and got the first 80 had you not suddenly given it a little push. And the second thing I recall was, you remember the monster time we had shooting? You remember Johnny shooting 6 or 7 days shooting the dream sequence?
Oh, yeah.
You remember?
Oh, yes,
what a
of
nightmare
course.
shooting that thing
Yeah.
was. We had to shoot it for every different angle.
That's correct.
With every different combination.
And Frank finished in the picture, if you recall, and he was going to leave. So we just said, let's cut it together, just make a quick rough cut for Frank. And we did that afternoon, showed it, and we never changed it.
No, we never did.
Yeah, I was, earlier this afternoon, I was remembering and discussing your marvelous invention, changing the ladies of the Garden of New Jersey into the communist Chinese and Russians. And that knocked me out.
Marvelous outlet for his aggressions. May I have the bayonet, please?
Not with the knife, with the hands.
With the hands? Here, have him use this.
The United Artists said we're scared to make this thing because it is so, they said, so anti-Russian, which it wasn't. And it wasn't, of course, but they said, and if President Kennedy, as this picture's released, if Kennedy is just about to have some sort of a rapport with the Russians, it's going to embarrass them. Mm-hmm. And you said, I would just come down from Johannesburg.
So that's Axelrod saying that Sinatra just came down from Johannesburg.
And I saw the president, and the president said, what are you going to do next? And I said, the Manchurian candidate. And he said, great, who's going to play the mother? Well, that sort of ended that argument, if you remember.
He was really interested, though, in the facts of the project itself.
So there's Sinatra confirming and validating that JFK was interested in the facts surrounding the project itself.
The fact that people have read all kinds of connotations into this thing is funny because we set out to do Dick Condon's book, that's what we did.
Right.
And they were kind of true to the book, actually, to certain things. They left out the incest stuff, but there's like direct statements from the book that are the dialogue of the movie. So they didn't feel like they needed to change anything. Dr. Yen Lone, almost all of his statements are right out of the book. So it made Axelrod got credit for Condon's writing, it sounds like. But God bless him. I mean, maybe that's like the real skill, is like, why would I rewrite something that's already well written? I don't know.
We did all sorts of strange things, but we did them so automatically. I mean, it's rather strange that Angela Lansbury was 1 year older than Larry Harvey and played his mother. And nobody questioned it for a second.
She was superb.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Absolutely marvelous. And she was sinister. She
really
really was.
Terrifying.
She was
Yeah, she was sinister. She really was.
heavy.
But now we have come almost to the end. One last step. And then when I take power, they will be pulled down and ground to death for what they did to you. And what they did in so contemptuously underestimating me.
In the book, there's quite a big thing about the incestuous relationship between the mother and son. But
that's what they're saying. There's quite a big thing about the incestuous relationship between the mother and son.
Somehow, the way she played it at the very end, she implied it very subtly and very effectively, I thought.
She kissed him straight on the lips, and then she put a period to the whole idea, whether is she or isn't she, was the whole point. Yeah.
And Frank, I think another thing, too, that might be interesting to talk about, which is the fact that in those days, when we made that picture, we weren't able to do all the graphic violence that they do today. I think it made it a better movie.
And we had the first karate fight that anybody ever had.
That's the first one.
First one, yeah.
With Henry Silva. The sequence where I walked up to the door, looking for Larry, and Henry Silver opened the door. There was a moment where he knocked me down, and I said to him, kick at my face with your left foot. The scene started, and he came at me, and he kicked with the other foot. I want to tell you something. I never moved so fast in my whole life. I just shoved everything over to one side like that, and he caught it in the fist. I broke my finger in that thing. You see that?
War wound. Is that your wound from the Manchurian Candidate?
Yeah, that's my war wound. When I went for his head and hit the table, and broke the table.
That's right.
It was a solid table, and they cut into it. And there was a movement where I hit him, and he fell against the table. In the rehearsal, I said, that's the right position. Either he didn't hear well, or he didn't know left or right. It's a good thing it was rehearsal. But he moved into the area where I was going to bring my hand down. When we talked, and either one of you said, what role would you like to play? And I said, I'd like to play the Marco, the guy in the service, the soldier. Because I knew that the slightly tougher role was the role that I wanted to play. I wouldn't have known how to play the thing that Larry did.
Well, as it turns out, it was sure the right choice.
Right choice.
Yeah.
That symbol was a grabber, the Queen of Diamonds.
Absolutely.
And he played off it so well. When he said, how about a little solitaire? Well, his eyes kind of got almost crossed, you know?
Why don't you pass the time by playing a little solitaire?
Larry was a fine actor. He was a marvelous actor.
Wonderful. Yes, he was.
Good actor.
Harvey passed away early. I don't know what his whole story was, but I think he died like when he was like in his 40s.
He left us too soon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I go back and think about things we did, little moments we did. And I remember the wonderful enthusiasm on the part of everybody involved in the film. And I mean it sincerely. I'm talking about Grips, the assistant camera.
It's a great film. Frankenheimer, like I said earlier, he went on to do 7 Days in May. And then this is Frankenheimer right here. Then he was kind of like a left-wing guy, and friends with RFK. When RFK was searching for the nomination, which overlaps with this is like the shooting happens at the nomination thing, right? In Manchurian Candidate. In real life, RFK is in California in 68. I think it's June. He's traveling around. He is using the base of Frankenheimer's house as kind of a base to do his speeches in San Francisco. And I think he was speaking at places related to farmers' rights and Cesar Chavez and all this stuff. And then I think the night of earning the California nomination, John Frankenheimer gets in his car and drives RFK to the Ambassador Hotel. And then he drops him off, and RFK gets shot by Sirhan Sirhan. But one of the interesting things, according to Ed Sanders, this guy right here, Frankenheimer, brushed aside Sirhan Sirhan and later told a friend, did I just brush by a Manchurian Candidate? They didn't know all the information we know today. Like, there's so much there's still information control today. We're totally, at least in the States, we're little better than cattle on a cattle pen. We don't know anything about the war in Ukraine or get very little information about what's happening in the Middle East. You have to find other outlets to get the truth, but I think it was like that back in the 60s. It's totally Mockingbird levels of control. But the fact that he knew at that time, he actually got freaked out and left Hollywood. I think he went on a real drinking jag, this guy Frankenheimer, and moved to France. He was deeply affected by RFK. RFK was a personal friend.
Yeah.
And yeah, so pretty amazing. This guy's made great movies. He's actually was brought in, I don't know, in his later on his life, he was brought in for the disastrous making of the Island of Dr. Moreau. I don't know if you've seen the documentary on that, but it took place in Australia, and it just was like one of those on-set nightmares where they hired Marlon Brando, and he showed up super fat and they paid him $1 million, and he just acted like a jerk the whole time. And the whole movie was like, and then the director had like a nervous breakdown or something.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
And then Frankenheimer's brought in. Yeah, I can't remember the name of that film, but it's just Frankenheimer's arc. Like he was great. He was a great director. He's a great director for this. Very intelligent guy. Like I said earlier, like he's from a TV background, so he kind of had those techniques. He knew certain techniques of like panning and set design, set moving around, stuff like that. The Island of Dr. Moreau. What's the name of the documentary about the making of the Island of Dr.
Is it
Moreau?
Lost Soul?
I don't know.
The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island
Yeah,
of
Richard Stanley. Yeah, that's the guy's name. Richard Stanley, after that movie, he also fled Hollywood and became a recluse, like somewhere up in the mountains. Like he just was done. He's like, this place sucks. I'm out of here.
Wow.
He was, and I think actually he had two really difficult actors. He had Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando, who were total egotists, you know. And yeah, oh god, it's crazy stories. Anyway, I'm at 90 minutes. I did a 90-minute show earlier today, so I'm done. I'm cooked.
Okay. Well, thanks so much,
Yeah.
William. I appreciate you coming in. I really hope we can get you back soon.
Yeah, great to talk with you again. Thanks for having me on. But yeah, there's a lot more to the story. I got like hours to hours, you know. I got 100 hours on all this stuff. But it is interesting. People go see the original Manchurian Candidate.
Yeah, guys, check out the
And-
original because if we bring William back, you're going to want to know what we're talking about. So, yeah, thank you, everyone, for watching. William, before you go, I know I told everyone about your books, but you want to let everyone know?
Yeah,
where
you can find my 5 books on Amazon. You can go to my Patreon and see my 5 documentaries. It's $5 a month. I post a lot of stuff there that I wouldn't post on social media. You can also watch a lot of my interviews there for free with no ads or anything like that. And then you can also buy books from my website. You're showing my website right now.
Yeah.
And my podcast too. You can listen to me drone on a variety of subjects. So it's William Ramsey Investigates. It's in the top, I don't know, 30,000 podcasts in the world. It's somewhere. It's not at the very top, but other people who are interested in research and reading and stuff like that would find it, my podcast, interesting. Tons of shows on all the stuff we discussed. Oswald, Ferry, Garrison, other great JFK researchers too, who I've learned a lot from. So check those out.
Right on. So check out William and please subscribe to the Divulgence podcast on YouTube. You can check us out on Spotify. And yeah, everyone take care. Thanks.
All right. Peace.